Of course, the mama's boy gets into the Kingdom Hearts series, but here I am, a Nintendo character from one of the greatest games ever made, and I'm not even a spirit? There is going to be hell to pay, Sakurai!
I wasn't even involved as a spirit either. And the main from my game is a playable. Not even that flower maiden and barmaid are spirits. As for Kingdom Hearts, I have not even been announced for Kingdom Hearts 3. At least, not yet.
You're funny.
Oh my god!
I strike it with steel, you blast it with fire.
Not done this countdown yet.
What is the measure of a good final boss battle? Is it the hero finally reaching their peak of strength and wisdom to finish the journey no matter the odds? Or is it the satisfaction of eliminating the one obstacle that's pestered and hindered them throughout their journey or even in life?
¿Por qué no los dos?
Maybe it's all about just giving a stellar presentation. And in a lot of rare cases, it's about all three. Okay, just a word of warning, this was not an easy list to compile because there are so many different kinds of good fights, each bringing something unique or satisfying to the table. It was hard to pick just 10. Final bosses are something very personal to the player, so I don't expect you to agree with this list.
I'm fighting a losing battle trying to decide!
But in the end, I finally settled on the 10 that I felt had the most unique battles, enticing ambience, and ultimately led to a satisfying conclusion to the respective game's narrative. Ah yes, a battle as old as time itself. A pudgy Italian plumber versus a Jurassic turtle thing in order to rescue the fair princess. Honestly, I really didn't like Super Mario 3D Land. Not that it was a bad game, it was just insultingly easy. Worse than Mario Galaxy 2 easy. For Mario veterans, the first few worlds have nothing that new or difficult, not really letting you take full advantage of the platforming functions. And even the later levels can easily be cleared as long as you have a Lukey suit on standby. Ugh. I'll asleep just thinking about it. But then you come to the final boss against Bowser and BAM! You get hit with a difficulty spike coming from frickin' nowhere!
Now this is more like it!
Bring it on!
For starters, the road to getting to Bowser is insane. You ride through flaming bowels of the castle trying to make it over moving platforms or collapsible floors and dodging fiery obstacles of every kind. And that's just the prelude. Once the real battle begins, you may need to check your pulse afterward. You've got to race to the top of the castle and avoid getting blasted or trampled by Bowser while watching your step because a lot of the platforms are in danger of collapsing right from under you. If you manage to get the Tanuki suit, do not lose it. It may be the only thing to help you barely survive. Overall, it's one never-ending string of panic and anxiety. And it makes me feel so alive!
Oh, I feel it! I feel the adrenaline anything!
In addition to being a serious wake-up call to an otherwise dull game, this is one of the few Mario final bosses that actually tests your platforming abilities. Yes, the new Super Mario Bros. Games and New Super Mario World had similar concepts, but this truly felt like the classic cinematic clash between Mario and Bowser. While you still gotta go through doldrums to get to it, this more than makes up for it by ensuring you don't get too comfortable after a rather cushy run. Way back at the very start of your Pokemon journey, you find yourself in a rivalry with the good professor's cocky grandson, Blue, Gary, whatever immature name you want to give him. Immediately, you hate this guy. He always selects the Pokemon that's strong against yours, conveniently and graciously waiting for you to pick first. Also, throughout the entire game, you see that he's always gotten badges before you. And every time you encounter this little punk, he usually just rubs in how farther ahead of the game he is and how much better he is than you, whether you beat him or not. Even during a terrorist hostage situation, he feels the most prudent move is to preen like a peacock.
He's an asshole.
Luckily, you don't let him stop you from continuing your journey all the way to the Indigo Plateau. You battled and barreled your way through the best of the best with the Elite Four, but then you get told you have to brave through one more challenge. The current Indigo League champion, and it's this dude again! Yeah, it's annoying to think that Blue made it this far before you, but now you got a chance to settle the score and show him up after all the grief he's given you throughout your Kanto adventure. You've ground your Pokemon to their peak, you hopefully remembered to save, so all you have to do is knock this entitled millennial right off his pedestal so you can take the crown. And once you do, the rivalry cycle is complete. You become the Indigo League champion, and Blue gets a massive reality check from his own grandpa, no less. The only major downside is that he's a poor sport about it, and his attitude doesn't really change that much in his later appearances, until you see him at the Battle Tree in Sun and Moon. You know, that's actually one thing you gotta give the anime credit for. When Gary finally lost to Ash during the Johto League, he took it like a pro and got a major attitude adjustment. That alone is victory enough.
Now if you could just take off the reverse plot armor and actually win a tournament for once, Ketchum!
So, you play Bayonetta, a game where you play as a witch killing angels with giant hair demons, each monster getting stronger and even more gigantic as you progress further along. You have to think the final boss was something pretty insane, especially since it's a game made by the masters of over-the-topness, Platinum Games. Well, yeah, after beating the Lumen Sage Baldur, you learn the truth about the young girl who you have been traveling with this whole time and put her to bed, finally ending the game. Instead, the game doesn't end, you have to fight this game's version of God.
Because of course.
Jubileus is your typical multi-stage boss battle. The challenge of the battle comes from how weird this fight is. Yes, even when compared to the rest of the game. You start by playing your rival Jeanne as she ascends a giant rocket tower on a motorcycle to save you. And when she does, the battle begins. This fight takes place in a giant sphere in space, because okay, where Jubileus uses her hair to attack you. Why is it always hair?
Video games are weird.
This proves to be her undoing as it exposes her weak spot too. As the battle continues, she twists the area to several different climates like lava, ice field, and even a giant storm. As her HP continues to decrease, her attacks get more and more intense with her hair turning to stone and punching you.
That's the way we wash our hands.
Until you punch her so hard, her spirit turns to stone and gets sent to the sun. And then the credits roll again. Until you realize that Jubileus' stone body is coming to Earth and you have to destroy it before you end up like the dinosaurs. Flashy visuals, zany build-up, insane payoff? What can I say about this? It's crazy, but fun.
It's a Platinum Games title. Madness comes with the territory.
Most everyone's mad here.
There are few clashes as iconic as the one between Ridley and Samus Aran. He killed her parents, she killed him, but somehow he keeps popping back up. This time, the stage for their battle is a world on the brink, being torn apart by ferocious storms. Samus has just completed her mission with the baby Metroid in tow. She summons her ship and the baby Metroid flies ahead. It looks like the ending is going to be the same. Then out of the sky, Ridley appears and snatches the baby up. Samus, no doubt enraged by the sight of her child clutched in Ridley's claws, leaps into battle, those mama bear instincts kicking in real fast.
Get away from her, you bitch!
While not as difficult as some other bosses in the game, Ridley is still plenty challenging, as failing to recognize the pattern and execute those dodges can be very punishing. Using her arsenal to its fullest, Samus beats back Ridley and rescues the baby Metroid, but Ridley is far from finished. The battle resumes and Ridley manages to get the upper hand. Just as things look bleakest for Samus, the baby Metroid jumps in and drains Ridley, saving Samus. Then, foreshadowing Super Metroid, the baby transfers the stolen energy to Samus, giving her a second wind. The fight continues, both Samus and the baby Metroid assaulting Ridley until finally, he goes down and stays down. Satisfied with their victory, Samus and the baby enter Samus's ship and depart. Samus Returns is how you do a remake. I love how without any dialogue at all, from the very appearance of the baby Metroid, we get to see how the relationship is established and how much these two mean to each other. This final battle wasn't necessary at all, as the original Game Boy version ended once you arrived at the ship. Heck, in a weird way, it helps to soften the blow of,
And the baby, the baby, the baby, the baby.
Okay, not completely.
Still, I have to give props to this game for delivering a unique sense of camaraderie between mother and squishy alien child, especially when it involves using a tag team tactical strategy to take down a familiar foe.
You're matronly!
And I shall be the matron of honor! Honor.
Alright, so the next one is... Oh no. Oh no.
Nano Machine, son!
Oh yes!
Seriously, only in the mind of Hideo Kojima and the design of Platinum Games could we get a boss as insane as this guy. In Metal Gear Rising, you play as everyone's favorite breakdancing cyborg ninja Raiden as he tries and gets revengeance against, well, whoever happens to piss him off that day. The journey involves fighting against a load of other cyborg enemies and learning deep lessons such as murder is bad and the internet influences way too much. The game is normal Kojima levels of silly, but then you get to the final level and meet the final boss. It's literally a jacked out middle-aged senator doing a serious social commentary about war and memes.
The memes.
And saying stuff about having a dream and making America great again.
They'll make America great again!
At first, he seems like every stereotype of corrupt politicians and over-the-top dictators, but then once his true philosophy is revealed, things get turned on their head. While his means are very similar to those kinds of folks, his ends are to stop those things.
I'm using war as a business to get elected! So I can end war as a business.
He very charismatically attacks all the reasons people choose to fight or go to war. I've seen quite a few comments, articles, and even videos of people agreeing with this point of view. The entire cutscene leading up to the fight is very much a physical manifestation of their philosophies going head to head, with it ebbing and flowing to whomever seems to have the upper hand in the argument. Raiden isn't able to effectively convince Armstrong, almost like he's repeatedly hitting a brick wall. He also doesn't get the high-frequency blade until he changes his philosophy. When Raiden calls him batshit insane, Armstrong briefly looks ridiculous. In the end, Raiden doesn't really have a counter for Armstrong's position, and even ends the game adopting part of his point of view, as Raiden uses the mechanic that allows him to absorb the parts of people he kills to finally off Armstrong. And I haven't even gotten to how cool the actual fight is. The location is a beautiful, smoky sunset surrounded by fire and destruction. Armstrong attacks in a pretty brutal style, utilizing power attacks and giant flame geysers to keep you on your toes. Don't get too close though, he can grab you and pummel you into the ground, punch you so hard you lose your sword, and chuck the debris of a giant Metal Gear at your head. The battle is tough, and even those who cheese the rest of the game will hit a massive roadblock with Armstrong. Plus, the music is awesome, giving us an interesting look into Raiden's perception of the situation. On the surface, Armstrong is just another over-the-top Metal Gear boss and another Platinum Games spectacle, but peel off all those layers and you see there's a lot more care and thought put into this fight than most give it credit. For obvious reasons.
Don't f with this, Senator!
I could quote this man forever.
Some bosses give you an amazing showdown with a foe that bursts with charisma and power. Some bosses have you and your party using all your skills and powers to save the day.
And some bosses give you nightmares for your entire childhood!
Welcome to my nightmare. I think you're gonna like it.
The Mother, or Earthbound series, is a quirky set of Nintendo RPGs that on the surface looks kid-friendly and a bit silly, but it hides some stories beneath the surface that deal with some pretty raw subjects. Loss of childhood innocence, mental and physical abuse, even the death of family members. And all of this hidden behind wacky characters and silly situations. In Mother 2, or Earthbound, right from the get-go, you are told the big bad is Gygas, a being that in the future will start an alien invasion unleashing untold destruction. After a lengthy adventure, you discover that it's technically impossible for you to beat Gygas. He's just that powerful. However, there is one place he is actually weak: the past. You and your compatriots give up your mortal bodies to travel back in time to the one point you can actually beat the final boss.
Welcome to my nightmare. I think you're gonna like it.
Oh, hi, object of my nightmares that's going to be visiting me for the next year and a half.
This entire fight is unsettling and difficult. The haunting music, the distorted visuals, and the game itself being unable to describe to you what exactly Gygas is doing. All of this ups the creep factor to maximum levels. It's almost like Gygas has possessed your console and you're fighting it. His difficulty is nothing to slouch at either, with attacks that can one-shot your entire party. You'll be gaming that health countdown system just to stay alive. And in the end, it isn't even Ness or any of his friends who end up destroying the Eldritch Abomination, but it's actually the hopes and dreams of everyone you've met along the journey. And who just so happens to land the killing blow? The friend who has been with them the entire time. You.
Well, now I'm concerned and there's pressure.
At its core, what makes Gygas so darn memorable for many players is just how off the whole thing is. You can't grasp his true form, his attacks do something that nearly kills you multiple times, and even at the end, it's never really stated who or what this thing is. There's plenty of great fan theories as to what the answers are, such as the one where you are technically fighting an eldritch baby in the womb.
But I think I'll leave that for the tinfoil hat side of YouTube.
Sometimes there's a difference between games you like and games you think are good. I did a whole list of games I want to like, and frankly, my opinions on those games haven't changed much. What I'm trying to say is that even if I don't like the game much as a whole, I can still give credit where credit is absolutely due.
Even though sans puns makes me want to make a genocide run.
Undertale took the internet by storm. With its simplistic 2D old-school Mother RPG style, bullet hell gameplay, quirky characters, and oddly deep lore and story that explored the nature of love, pain, secrets, friendship, death, mourning, and second chances, it's hard not to ignore. Each area had a boss or a new friend with something unique to offer, and you could technically go through the whole game without hurting a soul.
Alright, Sans, where are you? I'm gonna choke you with your own femur!
A lot of you see Undertale on this list and immediately jump to the fight with the weakest character in the game as the best, and I don't blame you. That fight's really good. Or the fight with such a dramatic art shift and meta gameplay, it almost made the list. But personally, I prefer something a little more hopeful. In the true pacifist ending, after you beat Asgore, all your friends come in and either admonish Asgore or cheer for what you've done, until the main villain of the game, Flowey, absorbs all the souls of every monster as well as the 6 dead humans and transforms into the ghost of the dead Prince Asriel. And when he sees the player as his human sibling, he morphs into an incredibly powerful being bent on resetting the timeline to get his body and his sibling back. The fight with Azrael Dreamer at the end of the True Pacifist run is a magnificent thing of beauty. Not only do his regular attacks call back to his own parents' attacks at the beginning, but when the music swells, the battlefield changes into a technicolor arena of despair and dreams. And while you technically can't lose this fight, the stakes still feel incredibly high. One by one, you save the friends you've made on this journey and weaken Azrael's desperate hold on them. Every skill you developed in the game, every playstyle you learned fighting with your friends comes back to challenge you while you remind them of why they mean so much to you. You are their hero. You can save them. And all it takes is kindness, compassion, mercy, love, and very good reflexes. You ultimately succeed, only to find that you have to save one more person. In order to save the timeline and every monster in the underground, you have to save Azrael from himself. And his pleas for help, his cries for his sibling as he surrenders to the fact that he is truly dead and will have to stay that way, is heartbreaking.
I'm feeling...
The music is absolutely incredible, combining the 8-bit style that blends with the visuals and soaring orchestral accompaniment as you make your last stand. Every time the electric guitar comes in and the rainbow battle begins, it's like a punch to the gut and the heart. The stark deviation in style of the visuals and music highlight that their reality is bending, and it's up to you to save everyone who is suffering. Everyone, including the small monster prince who died because he loved his sibling.
Goat Mom, can you give me a tissue? Okay. The final 3 of this countdown were hard to choose from. Dear Hylia, it was hard. But I think it'll be worth it in the long run. Cue the music.
The Legend of Zelda series is known for having some of the best fights in gaming history, and the final bosses are absolutely no different. Well, for the most part. They're usually pretty easy, but dang are they not intense! An underwater battle against a well-developed foe 3 times your size. A twisted confrontation against the embodiment of chaotic evil. A duel against an ancient Dark One who will curse his reincarnations after losing, getting rid of interesting motivations in past games.
Okay, maybe not that one.
But out of all of them, there can be only one. After playing tennis with the Dark Lord of Evil and escaping the castle like you were in a Metroid game, just when you thought everything was over, Zelda gets locked out of the arena, and Ganondorf jumps out of the ruins and uses his remaining strength to become a giant pig beast with 2 swords!
It's been one of those days.
Ominous music, thunderstorm sky, and Navi being the most useful she's ever been, this is a battle for the ages. What I really love about this is for much of it, Ganon is shrouded in shadow and you don't see him fully until he's been weakened. Ganon starts the fight by disarming you from the Blade of Evil's Bane, so you're forced to get creative. He hits like a truck and Zelda's screams really add to the atmosphere. The battle itself isn't anything too different from other battles in the franchise, but that's because this was the fight that defined them. Honestly, this battle's build-up and atmosphere is what made it the quintessential final boss that most final bosses get their influence from, and very few have been able to match. Well, except for the next 2 probably.
Is it any wonder he came back in Smash Ultimate? You knew this was coming.
Ah, Kefka. Kefka, 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 Kefka. I've talked long and hard about him in various videos of mine from the very beginning, but I've rarely mentioned the battle with him, so let's do that. Throughout the first half of Final Fantasy VI, Kefka is mostly just a comedic servant of the Empire. Then he kills Emperor Gestalt, destroys the world, and becomes the god of magic. Instant stakes and instant tension. As such, the battle with him is straight up epic. Literally, a huge multi-form battle using 12 of your party members with each segment getting its own theme and its own absolutely gorgeous appearance. But what truly makes the fight with Kefka work is the music that plays during it. An epic 4-part orchestral piece that's over 15 minutes long and perfectly captures every aspect of the fight as well as symbolizing Kefka's traits. Seriously, there's an essay analyzing Dancing Mad that I'm actually going to make a video on later. With all that said, there's one thing keeping Kefka from number 1. The fight's difficulty, or lack thereof. Even if you don't go out of your way to use the most OP strategy, Kefka really isn't that hard, especially with bugged evasion making you nullify every other attack. Even his huge final attack, Forsaken, barely scratches your party.
Your day will come, old friend. Your day will come.
And because I love you, a plentiful amount of honorable mentions. Captain Blue, Beautiful Joe. This is Joe fighting against his childhood hero with 3 separate stages, one of them being a giant mecha battle. It's flashy, frenetic, and fun to beat up an old man. Malice, Shadow of the Colossus. Atmospheric and emotionally oppressive fight with beautiful music. Dr. Octopus from Marvel's Spider-Man, a dramatic final conflict between teacher and student from a fantastic game, almost on par with DC's Arkham games. Soul of Cinder, Dark Souls 3, sweet, glorious, flaming swords of battle! Hades, Kid Icarus Uprising, not sure what to say, just hilarious, challenging, and fun. Triple Threat, Joker from Batman Arkham Knight, had enough of Joker overshadowing the other villain's spotlight? No problem! Here's the final conflict that ultimately puts an end to his threat, with a tragic undertone. Bisley from Tales of Xillia 2. You get a wicked awesome new form with a new finisher. Plus the music. Oh, the music. Clockwork from Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. Hello, my name is Sly Cooper. You killed my parents and tore apart my family's most prized possession. Prepare to die. Gratilda from Banjo-Kazooie. An oldie but a goodie. It's challenging but fair and puts all your skills to the test. Plus, she's really just gosh dang funny. And Chakra Varden from Asura's Wrath would have definitely made the list were it not locked behind a paywall. Yes, I'm counting that.
It's the final
countdown! Ring the bells! Xemnas is finally number 1!
Honey, you know the rules.
Yeah.
Yay! 2 more and we get a date at the Cheesecake Factory!
Anyways,
I, or rather my champ of an editor, already talked long and hard about how great this battle is in the Kingdom Hearts month list. And yeah, many other lists as well for the past decade or so. Mr. Zebra Mansex is kind of prolific. So I'll just give you the Cliff Notes version. Simply put, Xemnas is everything a final boss should be. Constantly changing to keep things fresh? Check. Fair difficulty? Check. Ramping up to 11? Check. A capstone on the game's themes? Check. An ultimate test of all the skills you've gained by playing the game? Check. Remember what I mentioned earlier about what makes an amazing boss fight? Well, it's safe to say that Xemnas passes all 3 qualifications. With a beautiful presentation in both attack and atmosphere, an ultimate test to see how far Sora's come since the very beginning, and even the story's very beginning, and just the satisfaction of wiping the floor with the High Duke of Hamminess. That's the ultimate capstone for other characters as well, by having Riku fight alongside you. First he was your rival, then your enemy, and then your most trusted friend. This is why I keep saying that the story, or at least the Xehanort saga, probably should have ended here. It was a perfect ending. Overall, just an awesome final battle for an awesome villain in an awesome game. At least until Dream Drop Distance revived him and kinda undid all the grandiose from this brawl, because heaven forbid you get a simple closure in this franchise.
I'm the Fiery Joker, and it's been 12 years since I first started this channel. I want to thank all my employees and all my fans for just watching and supporting me. It really means a lot to me. So show your support by donating to my Patreon and buying a shirt. Bye!
God